Judge Law, and we're going to begin with our expedited accusation calendar with the State Court of Fulton County for today, September 4th, 2024. The expedited calendar is a list of misdemeanor cases which have been newly accused by the prosecutor, who is the Solicitor General of Fulton County. Therefore, this would be the defendant's initial or first appearance before a judicial officer. When each defendant is called, I will let you know what is your new case number, the charges that have been brought against you, to appoint counsel where necessary, set a bond, and also to give you a new court date if required. Ms. Bridgewater, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. That new SAP date will be September the 17th.
Okay, thank you. During the course of addressing each of your cases, we will be determining the amount of bond to be set for the charges. Bonds can either be a signature bond, which you would not have to pay for the bond today, but you would have to comply with certain conditions. Other bonds may be a cash bond or a surety bond. In those cases, you would have to pay for the bond either out of your own pocket or through a bonding company. If you receive a cash or surety bond, your next court date will be September 17th, 2024 at 9 a.m. And that will also be a Zoom proceeding. So for those of the individuals who plan to attend, please make sure you get a Zoom link from the clerk of court for that particular date. If you're a defendant charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, when I address your cases, please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything that you choose to say during the course of this virtual proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you. Keep in mind also that this virtual proceeding is not only being recorded, but live streamed. So if you have to say anything about your case, please talk with your appointed counsel and not say it out for the whole world to hear. All right? You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. Okay, let's begin in courtroom 2. Who do we have, please?
Position number 7, Miss Andrea Jones.
Thank you. Ms. Jones, Andrea Jones is accused of hit and run, failure of the driver to return or stop at the scene of the accident from August 18th, 2024. She's got a second charge of following too closely. Ms. Jones, you have a right, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be, is it going to be Mr. Cook? Yes?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Howard, any priors?
Second, 2019 possession of a controlled substance conviction. Jail with a recommendation.
Ms. Desiano?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. The state's recommending a $1,000 surety bond on the hit and run and a UJR on the following too closely: no weapons, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond. And that's based on a hit and run that happened on August 18th, 2024, where the victim, Shannon Smithson, was rear-ended by the defendant on I-20 westbound near Fulton Industrial Boulevard. The victim stated that the driver was driving a Kia Optima, and she was able to take a picture of the tag, and the registered owner of that vehicle came back to the defendant, who was also positively identified by the victim. And if the court could sound for Miss Smithson, thank you.
Ms. Smithson, if you're on Zoom, this is the time to unmute and start your video. All right. And what's the recommendation? Oh, 1,000 and UJR. Okay. Mr. Cook?
That was UJR, Your Honor.
1,000 surety on the hit and run, and UJR on the drive following too closely. That's the recommendation.
Yeah, we have my client, Ms. Jones, was arrested in Gwinnett County on a faulty headlight. She was arrested on August 27th, which was last Tuesday. The bond there was 119 surety or $20 cash bond. It's our belief she was held most of that time awaiting Fulton County, who did pick her up yesterday. So we're looking at several days here that we believe would suggest a signature bond through the jail.
And Your Honor, the jailing screen is showing that she was booked in the jail on September 3rd at 7:46 p.m. So we don't believe this is a Riverside issue.
When was the warrant issued?
The warrant was issued. Warrant was issued on August 21st, 2024 at 3:47 p.m.
Okay, and she was arrested August 27th in a separate jurisdiction and then given a $119 bond, then transported here because of this outstanding warrant. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Cook?
Nothing else, Your Honor. She's 24 years old. She's been in the area 4 years. She works at Home Depot. She has a 5 months, a high school diploma, and she is at this moment 7 months pregnant.
Right? On the hit and run, that's going to be 1,500. On the driving following too closely, that's going to be 1,000. That's going to be a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. No driving unless she has a valid driver's license, adequate insurance, and proper registration. If she gets arrested again for anything else, this 2,500 signature bond through pretrial will be converted to a surety bond. Ms. Jones, you cannot afford to get arrested again unless you are willing to pay the 2,500 surety bond because that's what's going to happen. But right now you have a signature bond. You report to pretrial once a month and make sure that you drive carefully. Thank you.
Next is position number 4, Mr. Clifford Carey.
This is Clifford Carey, charged with battery from October 14th, 2022. Mr. Carey, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Cook. Will the host please lower the hand for Johnny Terrell? I don't know why that hand is being raised, but thank you. Right, and what's the
83 total.
83?
Correct.
All right.
On probation out of Douglas for forgery, identity theft, 2020 probation. He got a lot of theft in his history and probation violations.
When was his last arrest?
I don't know. I didn't mark it. It might have been the 2020 probation, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Your Honor, we're showing it's the 2020 probation violation. However, notably, he was incarcerated in prison for most of 2021.
All right.
And Your Honor, this incident took place on October 14th of 2022, but it was not reported to police until November 9th, 2022. The victim in this case is Michelle Johnson. She went to the Zone 1 precinct to report being battered at work. She works at the Goodwill at 2135 Piedmont Road. And on the incident date, had a verbal dispute with the store security guard that she knows as Cliff, who's the defendant. She stated that the defendant grabbed her by her shirt and threw her to the ground, causing injury to her hip and back. She advised that the reason for the delay in reporting to the police was that her employer had asked her not to involve police immediately and they were going to handle it internally. However, after nothing was done, after several days, she did eventually go to police. We have not been in touch with Miss Johnson today. And Your Honor, given this defendant's extensive arrest history and risk of reoffense, the state's requesting a $2,500 surety bond, no further contact with Miss Johnson, a stay away from the Goodwill, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond. And if the court can sound for Miss Johnson, thank you.
Ms. Johnson, if you're on Zoom, this is the time to unmute. No? Okay. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 60 years old. He's lived in the Atlanta area 35 years. For the last 4 years, he's been worked in security for C&M enforcement. The date of this incident was October 14th, 2022. He is still employed by C&M enforcement. And we find it rather odd that we are almost 2 years later, still employed by CNM enforcement. He denies the allegations that stated in the warrant, and apparently CNM enforcement, I'm not sure what their position is, but we just find it troubling that it's been almost 2 years. He's worked for the same security company and who we are, and he's arrested. We understand he has a troubled past. He got out of prison, I think, around 2020 or 2021. Since that time, there've been no other incidents, no other arrests. Again, we have severe doubt about the facts surrounding this incident. We will be seeking. We have no problem with any of the conditions of bond, although if CNM still does security for Goodwill, he ought to be able to keep his job. And we would ask for a signature bond at whatever level the court deems appropriate.
Bond is set at $1,500. It's a signature bond through the jail. No further contact with Michelle Johnson. He may return to wherever he's working, but he cannot go back to the Goodwill store. He doesn't work there, right?
No.
Okay, so he cannot return to the Goodwill store at 2135 Piedmont Road in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you. Make sure he comes back to next court date. Make sure his address is current.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Your Honor, this is a battery charge, so we would argue it's restricted under SB 63.
Understood. I'm exercising my discretion and doing, but it's not family violence, so I'm going to go ahead and exercise my discretion. It's going to be a signature bond through the jail.
Thank you.
Next, case.
Position number 5, Mr. Darrow.
DeAndre Darrow is accused of willful obstruction of an officer and criminal trespass from September 3rd, 2024. This is 24 CR 6253H. Mr. Darrow, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Last arrest was suspended license NOLO, a resident of Arkansas.
That's my case, Your Honor. This is an incident that occurred on September the 3rd at about 7:30 a.m. Police were called to 935 Marietta Street. That is the Arium Apartments, ARIUM. They reported that the defendant had been at the location and they had encountered him previously and told him he needed to leave and not return. He did not live there. He's not a resident of those apartments, and he was accessing an area that requires a key fob for residents only. So he was arrested, Your Honor. When he was trying to be detained by officers, he fled on foot. He fled from Officer or Sergeant Reinhardt. We're asking for $1,000 SOB through pretrial, whatever level they're recommending. It looks like he's not a resident of Georgia. And to stay away from the location again, that's 935 Marietta Street. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Cook?
Your Honor, my client is from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. He has been here for 3 months, and his intention is to stay here upon finding appropriate work. Beyond that, we have no objection to the bond as recommended.
Okay. On the criminal trespass, that's going to be a $500 surety, and the willful obstruction is going to be $1,000 signature bond through the jail. Total bond is $1,500. It's a split bond to stay 200 yards away from 935 Marietta Street in Arium or the Arium Apartments, the entire complex, and no illegal drugs, alcohol, and weapons. And his next court date is what was it? September 27th. What's that?
No, Your Honor.
17th, sorry, September 17th. Yeah. Thank you.
Next is position number 9.
Spencer Kaderka is accused of loitering and prowling on September 3rd, 2024, under accusation 24 CR 6250D. Mr. Kaderka, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Fourth arrest. All you got is DUIs.
All right, thank you. Ms. Desiano?
Your Honor, this incident took place September 2nd, 2024. Officers were dispatched to the Shell at 3325 Old Milton Parkway because a door alarm had gone off. Upon arrival, the officers observed two males outside the station to the left next to the door where the alarm had gone off. Then they detained those individuals. The officers noted that the door was propped open with a notebook. The defendant was one of those individuals. He told officers he was staying at the extended stay down the street and came to the gas station for a Four Loko. He was outside finishing that drink when police arrived, according to his statement. However, the business had been closed for about 30 minutes and there was no Four Loko in or around the defendant's area. The owner arrived on scene and they pulled the security footage, and it showed the defendant prop open the door, and he's seen in the back corner of the store near the lottery machines. The owner did a walkthrough and did not notice any damage or stolen items, and therefore the defendant was arrested for loitering. The state's requesting a $2,000 good bond to stay away from the Shell. No weapons, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond. And that recommendation is based on the defendant's criminal history. From what we have, it shows that it's all out of the state of Texas, and he was staying at the extended stay hotel. And so we would argue that he does not have ties to the community. Thank you.
Got an Alpharetta, Georgia address, so I'm not sure about that. Okay, Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 32 years old. He's been staying with a friend at 7206 Beaver Creek Road, Alpharetta. He's been in the area about 2.5 years. He's working now as a full-time as a server at the Kona Grill. He's been there about 6 months. He denies the propping open of the door. His position is he knows the people at the location, and he was certainly in the area. Actually, I think charging his phone. He has been homeless at times, but again, he does have this friend at Alpharetta. So we believe he is a good risk as far as coming back to court at the appropriate time.
All right. Bond is set at $2,000. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. He's going to be reporting twice a month, and he'll need to be on random screens for alcohol. No alcohol consumption, and when you report to pretrial twice a month, if you fail a alcohol test, your signature bond will be revoked and convert to a $2,000 cash bond or surety bond. And you have to stay 200 yards away from the Shell gas station at Old Milton Parkway in Alpharetta, Georgia. Thank you.
Position number 10, Murphy.
Xavier Murphy is accused of terroristic threats and acts from July 27th of this year. Accusation 24 CR 6241A. Mr. Murphy, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
18. 2023 battery terroristic threats. That's open out of Clayton County. 2023 FTA. 2019 trespass conviction. 2011 simple battery DV conviction. 2011 affray conviction. 10 simple battery DV conviction. And 06 battery conviction.
Thank you.
That's my case, Your Honor.
Okay.
This is an incident from July the 27th of 2024. Police were called to 7480 Old National Highway in Riverdale. That's a McDonald's. There, the manager, her name is Jasmine Caldwell, reported that the defendant, who was a customer, had come inside the restaurant and was upset about his order. And in front of witnesses, he made threats to beat her ass. Police spoke to several witnesses who confirmed that that's what they heard, and the defendant was identified based on his license plate information. This was at 9 a.m. in the morning at McDonald's. A warrant was obtained, and it looks like he was just picked up. We're asking for a surety bond, Your Honor. $2,000 is what we would request based on the extensive criminal history. No contact with Mrs. Caldwell. Stay away from the location, the McDonald's at 7480 Old National Highway. No drugs, alcohol, and weapons while on bond. Thank you.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, given the nature of the charges and of course, there's a certain coarsening of language in society these days, but I'm sure that he has a defense for this. Your Honor, he denies the charges, but we would ask the court to consider a higher dollar amount in a signature bond form.
All right. Bond is set at $1,000 surety. He's to stay away from the McDonald's at 7480 Old National Highway in Riverdale, Georgia, and have no contact with Jasmine Caldwell. Thank you. Next court date is September 17th.
Position number 12, Ragland.
Mr. Ragland might need to be at the end of the calendar, Your Honor.
Okay. Deputy, can we take Nigel Ragland towards the end, please, when we can switch off the live stream?
Position 1 and 2, SQ.
Thank you.
Have a seat, sir. You're not your turn.
Prequise SQ has got two separate cases this afternoon. First one is 24 CR 6243C, accused of willful obstruction of an officer and a brake light or turn signal violation from September 3rd, 2024. He also apparently has an outstanding warrant for battery, family violence, and now accused under case 24 CR 6244C for an alleged incident date of May 5th, 2024. Mr. Askew, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook.
Third arrest, 2016 trespass obstruction conviction, 2013 simple battery NOD.
Your Honor, for position 1, this incident happened September 3rd. Officer was patrolling in the area of Allison Court and Myrtle Drive when he observed a white Lexus with a non-functional right brake light. He initiated a traffic stop and the defendant provided his license, which showed that he had an active warrant out for his arrest. He instructed the defendant to exit the vehicle, which he did. However, after being handcuffed, he resisted and refused to get in the vehicle, was demanding to take the cuffs off, etc. In the second case, Your Honor, that incident happened back in May, on May 5th, 2024. Officers responded to 880 Rock Street, number C8, regarding a domestic dispute. The victim is Miss McKendra Samuels. She told police that she had a verbal dispute with her boyfriend that turned physical. They were arguing in the bathroom and he pushed her, and which caused her to fall and hit her head on the bathtub. The victim did suffer a concussion. We have been in touch with the victim today. She states that these parties are no longer in a relationship and they no longer live together. They have no children together. She states that the incident location is the defendant's residence and she no longer lives there. She confirmed the events in the warrant. She states that she's not scared of him. She says nothing like this has ever happened before, and they've been in contact since this incident and there's been no violence, and she would like to continue contact. The state is recommending for both cases, Your Honor, a signature bond through pretrial services. For position 2, with the added conditions that there be no further violent contact with Ms. Samuels, anger awareness course, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond, and if the court can sound for Ms. Samuels.
Ms. Daniels, McKendra Daniels, if you want to start your video and unmute. All right, Mr. Cook?
Yes, sir. My client denies, as far as the second case, the allegations is precisely stated in the warrant. He's 28 years old. They are no longer in a relationship. We would ask the court to accept the state's recommendations.
Okay. On the willful obstruction is going to be 1,000. On the brake lights, 500. That's a $1,500 signature bond through the jail. On the battery family violence, that's going to be a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. No further contact with Makendra Samuels, no illegal drugs, alcohol, no weapons, and to attend a domestic violence intervention program within 45 days of being released. You'll need to complete the 24-week program and present the certificate to your pretrial officer. That's a condition of your bond. Thank you.
Next is submission number 3.
This is State versus Sage Vincent Bergen, accused of battery against a female who is pregnant, battery, family violence, and simple battery, family violence from March 26, 2024. This accusation is 24 CR 6245E. Mr. Bergen, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Koch. Any priors?
I see something out of U.S. Army for drug use less than 30 grams. That's it.
Okay.
Your Honor, the arrest from the Army was back in 2019. We're showing that's his only arrest, and the charge is wrongful use of marijuana. And it appears that there was an admin action and it was dismissed.
Okay.
This incident took place back in March 26. Officers responded to 770 Glenwood Avenue. The victim in this case is Ms. Paris Williams. She stated she was involved in a verbal dispute with her boyfriend. At the time, she was 5 months pregnant, according to the warrant. She advised that she asked the defendant to accompany her to a doctor's appointment. There was an argument after that, and the defendant grabbed her by the neck and caused scratches and cuts and threw her down on the floor. And when she was on the floor, kicked her in the stomach. We have been in touch with Ms. Williams today. She denies the allegations in the warrant. She states that she was 3 months pregnant, not 5 months pregnant at the time of this incident. She stated that the defendant never grabbed her by the neck. She states that they were tussling over an iPad and the defendant accidentally kicked her. She states that he did not intentionally kick her and that her mother called the police when she saw that she was upset. She states this has never happened before and they've been living together since March without violence. She states she's not in fear of him and would like to continue contact. Your Honor, the state is requesting a signature bond through pretrial services. As far as contact's concerned, we would ask for no contact. However, we understand that it's been some time since this incident. We'll defer to the court as far as contact and stay away. We would request the defendant enroll in family violence intervention or anger awareness and no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. And I believe Ms. Williams is on the line.
Okay. Ms. Williams, if you want to unmute and start your video, if you want to add anything.
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. I respectfully would.
Raise your right hand.
Okay.
You solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge.
Yes.
Okay. So you don't have any fear of him?
No, Your Honor, I do not.
Okay. And what else would you like to tell me?
So there are discrepancies and exaggerations in the police report related to the incident in question. At the time, like the prosecutor stated, I was about 3 months pregnant in my first trimester of pregnancy, and I was experiencing heightened emotions, which contributed to the conflict with the defendant. The argument stemmed from the defendant's inability to attend a medical appointment with me due to work commitments. As this was my first pregnancy, managing my emotions was challenging, and I was highly irritable and unfortunately kept attempting to start an argument with him, and the defendant was trying to calm me down, and I kept coming at him even when he was attempting to leave, which infuriated me even more. As the prosecutor mentioned, prior to this incident and since then, the defendant and I have had no significant issues. We have actively worked on our parenting skills, including attending a parenting class at Northside Hospital shortly after the incident to better prepare us for the birth of our child and to be the best parents that we could be for our daughter. I recently gave birth a month ago, and the defendant has been exceptionally supportive, assisting with childcare, transporting me and our child to our medical appointments, and managing household responsibilities as a new father. He has been instrumental in our lives and demonstrated his dedication through his actions and support during my postpartum recovery. His dedication to our daughter and his role as a partner have been extraordinary. Given these considerations, I respectfully request that the court allow us to maintain contact while the case is still pending. I am not comfortable leaving our daughter with other family members to be with the defendant if we are not able to be in contact, given current health concerns with the spike of COVID and with the flu season approaching and my own limitations with driving with a newborn. The defendant's assistance is crucial for my mobility and daily needs in regards to our daughter's overall well-being. Thank you for your consideration, Your Honor.
Mr. Cook, anything else to add? I'm sorry, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, we're on mute. No, I don't think we are.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now, Your Honor?
I'm sorry, Mr. Cook, what'd you say?
I'm sorry. We would ask the court to take into account what, Ms. Williams said and to, grant the, defendant a signature bond. And I believe that was recommended by the, prosecutors. Nothing further. Your Honor.
All right. Miss Allen, are these some of these charges in the alternative?
I don't believe so.
You had one warrant for battery against a female who's pregnant, so I'm not sure about the other two.
Yes, Your Honor. We added a charge for family violence, given the parties lived together at the time of this incident, and then the simple battery. The battery is for grabbing her and the injuries from her chest and neck, and the simple battery is for the kicking.
Okay. On each count is going to be 1,000. That's going to be a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services. That's going to be a level 1. No further violent contact with Paris Williams. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, no firearms. And he'll need to enroll in a domestic violence intervention program within 45 days of being released. That's a 24-week program, and he will attend those classes every week. Thank you.
Judge, what was that amount?
$1,000 on each count.
And what level will that
A
be?
level 1.
Thank you.
No further violent contact. Mr. Bergen, if there are any future violent, physical or verbal altercations with Ms. Williams and the police get involved, your signature bond will be revoked, and you might end up staying in jail for a longer period of time than you expect. Thank you.
Position 6, Mr. James.
Odell James is accused of willful obstruction of an officer and driving while license suspended or revoked from July 31st, 2024, accusation 24 CR 6247B. Mr. James, you have been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean or Mr. Cook. Mr. Cook? All right. All right. Any prior?
23. Last arrest was in May. Suspended registration, possession of a Schedule 1 or 2 with intent, obstruction, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon or felony first offender, possession of a knife or a firearm during the commission. That's open. He on pretrial. I gotta get the case number. Got a 2023 arrest for obstruction, 2011 obstruction conviction, 2016 failure to appear. That's it.
May I have that case number you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm about to look it up right now. Hold on. I'll pull it.
And Your Honor, we're showing the 2023 case for obstruction. There's also a driving while license suspended charge in that case as well.
It's 24 PI 003 826.
Okay. Thank you. And Ms. Desiano?
Your Honor, this incident took place July 31st, 2024. Officers conducted a traffic stop on a maroon Buick Lucerne at the intersection of Barge Road and Campbellton Road. Because the tag came back suspended, the officer initiated a traffic stop. The defendant provided his license, which also came back suspended. The officer asked the defendant to get out of the vehicle, and he drove off. In light of his history, Your Honor, the state's requesting a $2,000 surety bond. That will be $1,000 on each count. No driving without a valid license, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol out on bond. Thank you.
Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 35 years old. He is from the Atlanta area. He works at a server or cook at J&J Rib Shack. He has been doing that for 7 or 8 years. He has a GED. We would ask the court, given the nature of the alleged offenses, that he be given a signature bond at whatever level the court deems appropriate. We have no objection to any of the other conditions as stated by the state or asked for by the state. Thank you.
He was given a signature bond back in May 30th, 2024 for same or similar charges. That didn't seem to work. Does he have a hold as well? I see a hold somewhere.
Yeah, he believes he has a speeding ticket in Union City. He just needs to pay that.
Okay. All right, on the willful obstruction, that's going to be 1,500. On the driving while license suspended revokes 1,000. That's a 2,500 surety bond. Next court date is September 17th. Condition to the bond is no driving until further order of the court. Your license will be revoked. Thank you. Well, it's already revoked, so.
Next is submission 14, White.
Did you say 14?
I did.
Okay. Eric White is accused of battery, family violence, criminal trespass, family violence, and cruelty in the third degree from February 24th, 2024, and his accusation is now 24 CR 6252A. Mr. White, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Mr. McLean.
31, 2023 probation. On probation in Fulton. Possession of marijuana with intent, possession of a controlled substance. 17 SC 152604. What else? Got an open PI case, 24 PI 000026. Sale of marijuana and obstruction. I saw 01 simple battery conviction, 06 ag assault conviction.
All right, thank you.
That's my case, Your Honor. This is a delayed arrest. The incident is from February 24th, 2024 at about 3 p.m. Police were called to a fight in progress at 670 Delbridge Street Northwest. There they spoke to the victim, who was described as visibly upset. She reported that she had a dispute with her ex, the defendant, about money and clothing, and that escalated very quickly to a physical assault. She reported that she'd been punched in the face. Her food that she was holding was thrown to the floor. She tried to get away from the defendant by using a crutch. She also reported that the child that they share, named Malachi White, was present, and that the defendant fled the location. He took her keys as well as her purse. A warrant was obtained a few days later in March of 2024. We've been in touch with the victim in this case. Her name's Ebony Walker. She reports that there was prior and subsequent violence, that she and the defendant are no longer together, and they do share that child. She actually reports that her jaw was fractured as a result of this incident, and so we'll be hopefully retrieving some documentation about that. I would note that there was a police report filed just in July because she suspected the defendant had come and damaged her vehicle while it was parked in front of her residence. So corroboration of her report that there'd been subsequent violence. She says he's come to the braid shop where she works and assaulted her or tried to fight her and threw rocks at her car. She's requesting no contact, to stay away from any residence where she is or a place where she works, and no contact with the child. We're asking for no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, and based on his criminal history, a $3,000 surety bond, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. McLean? I'm sorry, could you please unmute?
Very good. Thank you, Your Honor. He's asking for a signature bond or a $1,000 surety bond, Your Honor. He understands what the record is that was discussed just now. He is well aware of it and is taking care of certain things, but he denies this case. And he has a very good job working in the air conditioning industry and wants to get back to that job. This is alleged to have occurred in February. And so it is a delayed arrest and it is a factor. Thank you.
Okay.
And if you wouldn't mind sounding for Ms. Walker, Your Honor, I
Oh,
apologize.
sure. Miss Ebony Walker, if you're on Zoom, this is the time to unmute and start your video. All right. On the battery family violence, that's going to be 1,500. The criminal trespass family violence is going to be 500. And the cruelty is going to be 500. Total bond is 2,500. That is a surety bond. No further contact with Ebony Walker. Stay away from 670 Dell, was it Dell Road, Dell Boulevard in Northwest Atlanta?
Dale Bridge.
It's
Del
Delbridge, DELBRIDGE.
Okay, 670 Delbridge. Next court date is going to be September 17th. And no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons and firearms. Thank you. Oh, and with regards to the child, Mr. White, no contact with the child or children that you share with Ms. Walker. If you want to have contact, you'll need to file a separate legitimation action and get a court order to establish paternity, child support, and visitation and custody. Thank you.
Position number 8.
State versus Raphael Jones Thomas, charged with battery from August 24th, 2024, case number 24 CR 6249E. Mr. Jones Thomas, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Any priors, please?
Fifth
That'll be-
arrest,
Fifth,
2023 DUI conviction, 2017 home invasion conviction out of Vegas. It appears that he may be on probation for that. He's wanted out of Cobb County.
We believe he is on probation, Your Honor. The 2017 home invasion, he pled guilty to that in 2023.
okay.
Your Honor, this incident took place August 24th, 2024 at 2983 Sharrow-Hollop Point in South Fulton. Officers responded to a domestic dispute. The victim in this case is Dewana Howell. She stated that her boyfriend came over to her residence with his cousin and his cousin's girlfriend. She said they had a great night. The cousin left about 2:30 in the morning. And after the cousin left, the defendant got very upset at the victim because he felt like she smiled at the cousin in a flirty way. The defendant then called the cousin and invited him to come back over to have relations together since he apparently likes his girlfriend so much. The victim was obviously like, I'm not doing that. And then he punched her in the face. And apparently the cousin showed back up at some point and he started fighting him as well. However, by the time the police arrived, the victim didn't know the cousin's full name and the defendant and the cousin were not on the scene at the time. The victim had swelling to her left cheek and eye. We have not been in touch with her today. Given his criminal history, Your Honor, the state's requesting a $2,500 good bond, no contact with Miss Howell, a stay away from her residence, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond. And if you can sound for Miss Howell, thank you.
Ms. Dewana Howell, if you're present, you can start your video and unmute. All right, Mr. McLean?
It's my client, Your Honor.
Oh, oh, sorry, Mr. Cook.
No problem. Your Honor, my client is 41 years old. He's lived in the Atlanta area for about 3 years. He does live in a family home in Fairmont, so he has a good residence and would be no problem appearing in court. For the last 7 months, he's been a machine operator for Avery Pennison. He denies the allegations as stated in the warrant. We have no objection to any of the conditions of the bond sought by the state. We would be seeking a signature bond to whatever level the court deems appropriate.
On the battery matter, it's going to be a $2,000 surety bond. No further contact with Dewana Howell to stay away from this location, 2983, my goodness, Sharrow-Hollop Point, Southwest Atlanta. no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. And next court date is September 17th. That's a $2,000 surety.
ACDC, can you go ahead?
Fulton County, I'm sorry, ACDC, are you ready?
We can go to number 12, and, he's the only person in the courtroom at the time,
All right,
Mr. Ragland.
we can stop the live stream, please. And then, Miss Dorothea, are you involved with the Nigel Ragland case?
Yes, I'm his mother.
Okay, so please hold. We have a Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn, could you please unmute and start your video? Gwendolyn, could you please unmute and start your video? All right, Miss Grace, can you place the Gwendolyn in the waiting room, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.